welcome to today's Smartkarma webinar in collaboration with ASEAN Exchanges. I'm your host, Maliha Hadi. Today, I'm excited to welcome Smartkarma analyst Shifara Samsudeen, who will be discussing the ASEAN region's IPO capital markets. She'll be diving into the member exchanges' performance across the past few years, as well as sharing her expert analysis on recent developments in the region and what they mean for the future of these markets. Shifara, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Maliha. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in today. Thank you, Maliha.
Thank you, Shifara. Before we begin, a bit of standard housekeeping. We are taking live Q&A for this webinar, so I would request your attendees to please share their questions using the Q&A tab at the bottom of their screens. Please also refrain from resharing the contents of this webinar without express permission. A recording will be available afterwards on the registration page and will also be sent out to all attendees as well. So without further ado, let's kick off. Shifara, can you share a bit about yourself with the audience?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in today. So I will give a quick introduction of myself. I'm Shifara, an analyst at LightStream Research. I have been writing on Smartkarma for the past 6 years, mainly covering the tech, healthcare, cloud, and software and automobile sectors. I cover IPOs in Asia as well as globally and have written more than 300 insights on IPOs on the Smartkarma platform. Prior to joining LightStream Research, I worked as an assistant director at Moody's Analytics Knowledge Services. I have a Bachelor of Science in Accounting and also an Associate Member of CIMA UK.
Thank you, Shifara. Thank you for the introduction. Now, eager to hear your thoughts on the topic, please.
Yes. So let's get started. On slide number 2, we have the agenda for the webinar today. So I'll be taking you through an overview on how IPO markets in the region performed during the last 5 years. Then 2023, a year of uncertainty. Then a quick comparison on ASEAN IPO market against IPO markets in the US, the UK, and Hong Kong. Then I'll be talking about the key markets in the region, outlook and challenges, followed by Q&A. So let's move on to the next slide. Yeah. So the IPO markets in the ASEAN region have shown varying levels of activity over the past 5 years. You can see it on the chart on your right. There were periods of robust growth and significant downturns reflecting broader global economic trends and regional political dynamics. Indonesia, Thailand, and Malaysia dominated the region in terms of funds raised. Between 2019 and 2023, the region produced 756 listings, raising approximately 76 billion USDs. The onset of the COVID-19 pandemic in early 2020 brought unprecedented challenges to the global economy, and the ASEAN IPO market was no exception. However, the second half of the year saw remarkable recovery with governments introducing various stimulus measures. Sectors like technology and healthcare thrived amid the pandemic conditions. Let's move on to the next slide. The years 2021 and 2022 marked a period of recovery and resilience for the ASEAN IPO market. There were a flood of listings which attracted both regional and international investors. In year 2021, there were 152 IPOs, and whereas in 2022, there were 164 listings compared to just 114 in 2020. There was a large number of technology and renewable energy-related listings following in the global trend towards digitization and sustainability, such as the listing of Bukalapak in Indonesia and PTT Oil in Thailand. Let's move on to the next slide. We also have observed a few notable trends in the IPO market in the region. In line with global trends, the IPO market in the ASEAN region has been shifting towards energy and resources and consumer discretionary sectors. Historically, technology, media, and real estate sectors dominated the IPO market in the region. If you look at the chart below, number of IPOs by sector 2023, of the 164 listings in 2023, around 55 or approximately 33% were from the consumer sector. As the economies in the ASEAN region become high-growth nations with high per capita income, increased urbanization, and growing middle-class population, consumer discretionary sector secured the top spot in 2023. Another notable trend in the region was the number of secondary board listings, which have consistently outperformed the number of listings on the main board. This suggests that secondary board listings has become a strong preference among small and medium enterprises for public listings in the region. Let's look at the year 2023. On the next slide. 2023, a year of uncertainty. The global supply chain disruptions, rising inflation, and geopolitical tensions had a diminishing effect on investor sentiments toward the end of 2022. Because of this volatility in the market, several companies decided to delay their IPO plans. Though there were 164 listings in 2023, if you look at the chart on your right, the total funds raised from these listings declined significantly to 42 billion USDs compared to 56 billion USDs in the year before. Similarly, there had been a drop in the market capitalization of these listings. There also has been a shift in investor preference towards stocks with proven profitability and sustainable cash flows. Let's look at the next slide. Here we are going to discuss how ASEAN IPO market has performed compared to global IPO markets. When compared to global IPO markets such as the US, UK, and Hong Kong, the ASEAN IPO market presents a unique set of opportunities and challenges. While the number of IPOs in the ASEAN region is comparatively lower compared to these developed markets, the growth rates and market capitalization of successful IPOs in the region have often surpassed those in more mature markets. Similar to ASEAN, the IPO markets globally have experienced significant fluctuations from 2018 to 2023, marked by periods of rapid growth, historic highs, and substantial declines caused by the pandemic, geopolitical uncertainties such as the Brexit in the UK, regulatory crackdown in China, and rising interest rate and inflation rates. Let's move on to next. Let's look at how the key IPO markets in the region has performed. Indonesia. Indonesia has dominated the IPO market in the ASEAN region. Major developments in the country, such as allowing the issuance of shares with multiple voting rights, regulatory reforms aimed at accelerating IPO process, and the development board and the establishment of the acceleration board have all eased the requirements for listing in the country. The development board of the market continued to account for most number of listings, where it had 47 listings in 2023 compared to 15 main board listings and 17 acceleration board listings. Indonesian IPO market was previously dominated. Let's go back to the Indonesia slide. Indonesian IPO market was previously dominated by tech and telecommunication industry. However, market is now shifting towards energy and resources sector, such as the IPOs of Amman Mineral and Merdeka Battery Material IPOs. This shows increased investor interest towards sustainability-related stocks and the country's natural resources, such as nickel and copper mining. Let's look at Thailand next. Thailand has maintained a steady IPO market over the last few years. with a peak in the number of IPOs in 2022, which marked 42 IPOs compared to 40 in 2021. Thai market remained resilient in 2020 despite COVID-19 pandemic. Though the number of IPOs remained high in 2023, funds raised declined in the year due to global economic and political uncertainties. Sectors such as consumer goods and industrial products continue to attract investors. However, we have also observed that there has been several IPOs from a diverse pool of industries in Thailand. Let's move on to Malaysia next. From 2018 to 2023, Malaysia's IPO market showed consistent activity with a notable increase in the number of IPOs in 2022 with 35 IPOs. While other markets in the region declined in 2023, Malaysia showed strong growth in 2023, reflecting its resilient capital market infrastructure. The ACE market, which caters to high-growth small and medium enterprises, continue to dominate the listings. In 2023, approximately 75% of the listings were on the ACE board, indicating strong activity among smaller companies in the country. Let's look at Singapore next. Singapore's IPO market is unique in its trend of local startups exploring overseas listings. Despite this, Singapore continues to attract high-quality startups due to its strong regulatory environment and position as a global financial hub. There were 3 SPAC listings in 2022, that is special purpose acquisition companies, with the introduction of SPAC listing framework in September 2021. However, there hasn't been any SPAC-related listings since then. Financial services, biomedical sciences, and sustainable energy technology sectors have dominated the listings in Singapore. Let's move on to the next slide. Vietnam. The Vietnam government's privatization efforts and strong economic growth have contributed to the strong performance of the IPO market in the country. However, if you look at the chart, there has been an overall decrease in funds raised and number of listings. Vietnam's IPO market faced significant challenges in 2023 with a sharp decline in the number of IPOs and funds raised. Industrial products and consumer sectors dominate new listings in the country. This downturn was influenced by global economic conditions, market volatility, and stricter IPO and listing approval processes. Let's move on to the Philippines next. The Philippines. There has been notable increase in IPO activity in 2022 with 9 IPOs completed. However, inflation and rising interest rates have dampened the market sentiment, causing a downturn in 2023. Renewable energy projects have played a significant role in the IPO market in the Philippines. Energy and resources sector has dominated new listings, whereas 2 of the 3 listings in 2023 were from energy and resources sector. Let's move on to the next. I'll give a quick update on other markets in the ASEAN region. Other markets in the region also have showed varied performance during the last 5 years. Countries like Myanmar and Cambodia have smaller but growing IPO activities driven by their emerging industries and increasing foreign investments. Having said that, these markets are facing significant challenges such as regulatory hurdles, political instability, and limited investor base, which is impacting the growth of the capital market in the country. Let's move on to the outlook next. Our outlook on the ASEAN IPO capital market is cautious optimism. IPO markets in the ASEAN region had a subdued performance during the first half of 2024, where The region raised 1.4 billion USDs compared to 5.8 billion USDs in the same period last year. Except for Singapore, all other countries saw a decline in proceeds raised, where Indonesia had the biggest decline. Lack of blockbuster IPOs in Indonesia during 1H 2024 would have caused, compared to 1H 2023, would have caused the decline in Indonesia. Having said that, ASEAN continued to remain a hotbed for high growth stocks. The region is expected to witness positive economic growth in the coming years, driven by robust domestic demand, increasing foreign investments, and government initiatives to boost economic activities. This is likely to create a favorable environment for IPOs. Availability of quality startups. Countries like Singapore and Indonesia have thriving startup ecosystems supported by government incentives, venture capital investments, and incubators. These startups are increasingly looking to the public markets to raise capital for growth and expansion. Positive capital market initiatives are being implemented across the ASEAN region, aimed at enhancing market efficiency and attractiveness. These initiatives include the enhancement of surveillance and good corporate governance, accelerated transfer to the main board, and the reduction of stamp duty on share trading. Finally, strong IPO pipeline in key sectors in the consumer, energy, and resource sectors, including the electric vehicle supply chain. Let's move on to the next slide. Let's look at the outlook for key markets in the region. Indonesia, a wait-and-see approach. Investors have currently adopted a more cautious stance given the local political environment in the country, as a new government is expected to be formed in October 2024. This has caused investors to opt for a wait-and-see approach, as it is likely to bring in new policies and changes to existing policy framework. In November 2023, the Hong Kong Stock Exchange added Indonesian Stock Exchange as a recognized exchange, and this stated should allow companies listed on the IDX to apply for a secondary listing in Hong Kong. And this should encourage IPO activity further in the country. Also, according to exchange reports, there are nearly 30 companies waiting for IPO in the country. Let's look at Thailand next. New policy framework and rules to drive IPOs. There were 17 IPOs in the first half of 2024 in Thailand versus 18 in the same period last year, including the IPO of Thai Credit Bank Public Company, which was the first commercial bank in a decade to go public in Thailand. As per Thai Stock Exchange statistics, 13 companies have submitted applications for IPOs, that is submitted status, of which 7 were REITs. Also, the Thai Stock Exchange has brought in a strategy to strengthen investor trust and confidence in the capital markets through improving the qualifying criteria. I think these measures should further help the IPO activity in Thailand. Let's move on to the next slide. Outlook for Malaysia. Government's policies to drive new listings. During 1H 2024, Malaysia topped the number of IPOs in the ASEAN region with 21 listings versus 16 in 1H 2023. The Malaysia Exchange has brought in new measures such as expedited IPO approval process, accelerated process to transfer stocks from ACE board to the main board, and tax deductions to benefit the market. There also has been increased activity around PE market, and the market is expecting bigger IPO deals such as the fast food retailer QSR brands and telecommunications tower operator Eat.co Group. Those are the two of the most awaited IPOs in Malaysia currently. Let's look at the outlook for Singapore next. Singapore, a mixed outlook. The number of IPOs in the country fell to 1 listing during 1H 2024 versus 3 in 1H 2023. Nevertheless, there were 5 Singapore companies sought for overseas listings in the US during the first half of 2024. The IPO activity in the country is expected to pick up once interest rates fall and valuations improve. However, there remains skepticism around listings of REITs and SPAC companies. Let's move on to the next slide. Vietnam listing of subsidiaries of large conglomerates expected. There was only one single listing in the first half of 2024. However, this has surpassed the 3 listings in 2023. Vietnam is expected to bring in a new trading system and also adopt IFRS, which we think will help boost the market. Also, several large conglomerates have expressed their interest in listing their subsidiaries, including the Wind Group. Let's look at the outlook for the Philippines. Renewable energy listings to continue. There were 2 IPOs in the first half of 2024, and both were from the energy and resources sector. Suggesting that this remains a key IPO sector for the nation. The government of the Philippines is actively promoting renewable energy projects, and which has led to companies seeking for further funding. The country is also aiming to bring in new regulatory reforms and marketing campaigns to attract foreign investors into the local market. Let's look at the conclusion next. The IPO markets in the ASEAN region have demonstrated resilience and growth despite facing numerous challenges. Indonesia, Thailand, and Malaysia, as we discussed, have been the most active markets, contributing significantly to the funds raised. Singapore continues to be a hub for startups, while Vietnam and the Philippines are taking steps to overcome their recent downturns. Moving on to the next slide. As the region continues to navigate economic uncertainties and geopolitical challenges, the overall outlook remains cautiously optimistic, with potential for growth driven by strategic reforms and sector-specific opportunities. However, there are significant challenges that need to be addressed. Falling investor sentiment due to poor share price performance of companies post their listings. Lack of market liquidity, limited trading volumes, and lack of depth in investor base. This can lead to higher volatility and reduced attractiveness of these markets for both issuers as well as for investors. Efforts to enhance market liquidity, such as encouraging more retail and institutional participation, are important to address this challenge. So let's take on the questions now.
Thank you very much, Shifara, for that insightful presentation. As mentioned up top, you can now send in your questions for Shifara using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screens. Shifara, we have one question for you from an anonymous attendee. Is there any information on how these countries' stock markets have done during the past 4 years, and how have the IPOs done relative to their respective indices per country, preferably in USD? Can we get your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so we have not really looked into how the stock markets in these countries have performed during the past 4 years, but I would like to make a comment here. Like we discussed before, there has been there were periods of like growth, as well as there were periods of like decreases given like the pandemic and like the currently ongoing the macroeconomic uncertainties. Yeah, so we also did like some work on how IPOs have done relative to their respective indices, but I don't have the data at the moment here. Yeah, maybe I can share it with later, Malia, on this.
Great, thank you, Shifara. Another question for you is, how does a small investor invest in any of these companies, given these market stocks are traded nationally in their respective currencies?
Yeah, I don't think I'm the best person to advise on how small investors can invest in these companies because I have not looked at or like I have not done any work on that, Malika.
Got it. Thank you. And from Angus McIntosh, Shafara, what do you see as
Yes.
the most exciting IPO to potentially come into Thailand this year, in your opinion? Can you hear me, Shafara?
No, I have not looked at, and I don't have like a list to take you through like what are the exciting IPOs that are awaiting in Thailand. Yeah, sorry, I don't have that information with me.
Okay, got it. Thank you. I actually had a question for you from the team, Shifara, which
Yeah.
was that you mentioned that there were no SPAC listings in the last 2 years in Singapore. So can you elaborate
Yeah.
on why that might be so?
Yeah. So, like I said, there were three SPAC listings in Singapore in 2022, but there hasn't been any listings since then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's mainly because only one of the three companies that went for a listing in 2022 managed to successfully complete a business acquisition, while the other two have failed to acquire operating companies. So this has actually these SPACs have fallen short of investor expectation. That is one main reason why there were no SPAC listings, and also SPACs, when they go into listing, they have to identify like a target company to acquire. More, yeah, mainly these target companies are like high growth tech companies. Given the investor sentiment on the tech sector and the macroeconomic uncertainties, I think the investor appetite for these high growth tech stocks are currently low. That is also stopping SPACs from going for listings.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Shafara. Another interesting thing with respect to Vietnam, you mentioned that the market is waiting for a new trading system. So how do you foresee the impact of that on the exchange?
Yeah, so currently the Vietnam market is expected to launch a new trading system that is provided by the Korean exchange. And the new system is expected to settle transactions within a day, speeding up the trading process in the country. So once the new system is implemented, Vietnam will be upgraded to an emerging market from its current status of a frontier market. So the current status of being a frontier market has restricted many funds and family offices from investing in companies listed on the Vietnam exchange. So once the new trading system come into place, it should attract more foreign investors and encourage companies to raise large funds.
Got it. Thank you, Shafara. And we have another question for you here. It says Indonesia is the largest IPO market in the region. What is driving IPO activity in the country, and how can Singapore catch up to that potentially?
Yeah, so if you look at Indonesia, it has like a large population and it has favorable demographics, such as growing middle class and working population. Yeah, and at the same time, Indonesia has abundance of natural resources such as nickel and copper. Those are key ingredients. Nickel is mainly a key ingredient in EV batteries. The
Mm-hmm.
government of Indonesia has brought in several initiatives to attract FDI into the country. And at the same time, the government has prioritized local manufacturing and also trying to strengthen downstream industries. So the local nickel miners and smelters have started IPO processes to raise funds from foreign investors. Also, Indonesia is a key beneficiary of the global decarbonization efforts. Yeah, so these are the reasons that makes Indonesia like a hotbed for IPOs compared to Singapore. Though Singapore has like quality startups, I think Indonesia has like given the demographics and like the natural resources that stand out compared to Singapore, Maliha.
Brilliant. Thank you, Shifara. Thank you for that interesting perspective. If you have any other questions for Shifara, please feel free to reach out to us at research@smartkarma.com, and you can also share your questions underneath the insight on Smart Karma. For now, this is our webinar. Thank you for your time today, Shifara, and thank you all for attending. If you wish to keep track of Shifara or LightStream Research's work, I recommend following their profile on Smart Karma so you do not miss out on any of their insights. Please also note that Shifara is available for bespoke research requests or premium services. So if you wish to engage her for that, please contact your Smart Karma account manager. Lastly, if you have any other questions or comments, please feel free to email us at research@smartkarma.com. Thank you very much for your time, everyone, and have a great week ahead.
Thank you so much, Maliha, for this opportunity. And if you have any questions, as Maliha mentioned, please feel free to pass it on to me. I'll be able to respond to those questions. Thank you.
Thank you.